Introverts, how did you meet your girlfriend? Story 1. At a garage sale. Well, technically my mom's garage sale. My father was a hoarder, but not of old newspapers or glass bottles or garbage. He hoarded consumer goods, tools, CDs, home improvement stuff, camping gear, hunting and fishing stuff. The man had piles and piles of it stuffed into his home, most of it pretty high quality, all bought on clearance. The old man was a sucker for a deal, even if he didn't have a use for it. After he passed away, it fell to us to figure out what to do with a stock of overstocked goods large enough to open a store. So we sold it at rock-bottom prices in the front yard, as is tradition. It was a miserably hot summer's day. My mom requested that I come over and help, because the house was on a well-trafficked street, and the sheer volume of stuff meant there would be tons of people. She was right. There'd been a zillion people the day before, and though we'd sold a lot of stuff, there was much more yet to go. And today I'd put an ad up on Craigslist, it was even busier. It was a long day of haggling with strangers, but at the end of the day, we'd sold 90% of the load, and we were just getting ready to close up and celebrate our success with pizza. Then this car pulls up and out hops this gorgeous girl. She starts poking around in the CDs first, finds a couple she loves, then waves me over and starts asking about some she's unfamiliar with. Think she thought that since she'd found a few things she liked, the stuff she hadn't heard might be in the same vein, not knowing it was purchased indiscriminately from bargain bins all over town. I answer as best I can. I hadn't heard most of them, but I was able to steer her to a couple she might enjoy. We kept chatting, and I sort of showed her around in between helping other people who kept showing up. There was definitely an instant attraction, and some really great conversation. She had to get going, so I made her a sweetheart deal on the stuff and helped her to her car. She got in, drove away, and then I realized I hadn't gotten her number. My brother and my neighbor had a flipping field day at my stupidity. But she told me where she worked, at a restaurant down the road, and she told me the days she was usually scheduled. So I did something very unusual for me and pursued it. Friday afternoons, I'd drive over from my office and ask to sit in her section. The food was terrible, but she'd stop and chat as long as it wasn't busy, and I caught her Myron a few times. So on my third visit, I told her I'd love to see more of her and asked for her number. 10 years, a marriage, and a child, and we're still head over heels for each other. So I guess I owe my dad for the posthumous hookup. TLDR, I'm only person in history to get something at his own garage sale. Story 2. I met a girl on the internet. Let's call Get M. She was outgoing, social, very extroverted, and maybe a tad crazy. She came to visit me, about 7 hours drive away, and I awkwardly tried not to make a peach of myself. While visiting, she said, "Hey, a friend of mine from high school is on a co-op/intern term in city very nearby. We should go meet up with her for an afternoon. Let's call that friend K." Kay was nerdy, awkward, introverted, and I completely reevaluated what I wanted in a partner within the first 5 minutes of meeting her. Kay and I both slowly lost contact with M, and to this day we aren't sure if she knows that we became a couple a few years later, or that we got married. Someday we're going to run into her, and it's going to be really funny. Story 3. He was in the corner drinking a bottle of water. I noticed him immediately, and I noticed him noticing me for the better part of an hour. I finally just walked up to him after I figured he was too shy to approach me. We chatted for about 2 hours and then left. Later in school, we exchanged our AOL screen names, and that, after weeks of random chat sessions, he finally worked up the courage to ask if I wanted to see a movie, Harry Potter Natch. During the date, he didn't say anything, but I noticed him very fidgety, so I decided to hold his hand. After the movie, we were sitting in his car in silence and he was fidgety again, so I grabbed his face and kissed his cheek. He turned completely red, but was grinning ear to ear. In person, he had trouble stringing sentences together, but online, we would chat for hours. He had to express his love via email and cuddling without saying a word. We first met over 14 years ago, bought a house together and getting married in October, going to Disney and Universal for our honeymoon celebrate Halloween. It's pretty much amazing. As we get older, he's gotten much more vocal, but I still do most of the talking and socializing. We do a squeeze when holding hands to mean love you if we don't want to talk. Love him to pieces. Story 4. I met her at a gaming club. I was playing Damp D. She was hanging out with the MTG crowd. She caught my eye from afar, but being an introvert, I never went up to her. All my social energy was being spent on the Damp D. I had none left to leave my close friend group and greet someone new. If there's one hobby you can do while being solitary, it's writing, and that eventually led me to NaNoWriMo. I got to talking with some of the people on the local forums, and one of them turned out to be her. She invited me to a write-in with a bunch of locals. I didn't really want to go out, but now this girl I liked was directly inviting me out. I couldn't say no. We became nano-buddies for the next couple of years and started hanging out outside of that. We spent many nights during her senior year of college hanging out at her apartment, watching various shows and writing together. Then she graduated and moved away, and we slowly lost contact. Flash forward 4 years. I'm still single, a semi-regular poster on /r/forever alone, and resigned to living single for the rest of my life. She pops up on Facebook again. We'd been Facebook friends since before she moved away, but she rarely used the site. Now we're chatting, and soon the chatting moves to Skype. She's thinking about moving back into town and wants to know if I'd go around looking at apartments with her. She does the several-hour drive, and we look at a few places, hang out for a while, then she goes home. A few weeks later, she tells me about this cool nearby theme park. She does the several-hour drive, we hang out for a while, then she goes home. This goes on for a month or two, and I'm just the densest idiot that ever deserved to be an evolutionary dead end, because I'm not realizing people don't just drive for hours to spend a little time with a friend. Finally, in the most adorable Skype message I've ever gotten, she asks me if the next time she comes down it could, maybe, possibly if I want it to, be a date. I told her I'm someone who enjoys happiness, so of course yes. That was 2 years ago. We're getting married in July, and we still laugh at how dense I was. Story 5. After months of spending less than 20 minutes sober, drove myself to a hospital for detox. Finally got up to the unit at about 1 a.m., where I proceeded to be given a bunch of sweets to help me sleep and reduce the chances of a seizure. Woke up the next day for breakfast in my scrubs, highly confused, and there she was. She'd been in detox a full day before me, and this one allowed you to bring your own clothes and cow, so she was dressed in her sweats. For some odd peach reason, she saw me, barely aware, unshowered for 2-3 months, and thought he looks hot. Proceeded to spend the next 7 days in a locked unit, only talking. After which we both went to our separate treatments. Detox was combined detox and counseling that specialized in getting people into treatment directly from the hospital. Only contact we had from then on was about 20 minutes total of phone time, but we wrote letters to each other every day. It's been almost 9 months now, and we had very dark parts of our relationship where we both relapsed. But now we are both over 3 months sober. Focus on our individual recovery first. I couldn't be happier. I finally found my best friend who loves me for who I am and has helped me grow in so many areas. I know nobody is going to really read this, but I want someone to see it, so thank you to whoever does. Story 6. She came over to me in a coffee shop while she was on vacation in my country to ask how to tip. We had a 2-hour conversation and then an amazing 5-hour lunch 2 days later. She complained about her hostel and I offered her my spare bedroom. She accepted. Nothing happened, although it seems crystal clear in retrospect that we were falling for each other. Duh. I didn't want to be douchey and make her feel uncomfortable under my roof, so putting the moves on her was not something I seriously considered. 2 nights later, I had to be gone for most of the night on a work assignment, and I asked if she would please watch and walk my dog in my absence. I came home at 5 a.m. and was greeted by my suddenly very soft, very fluffy dog. She had somehow understood. Will you please wash my dog, and apparently didn't find that a strange request at all. The next evening, after we'd been talking over a bottle of wine for hours, it seems she'd had enough of my apparent indecisiveness, took the wine glass out of my hand, put it down, and leaned in for a kiss. That was 26 years ago. We've been married 23 years. Mama, edit. Thanks so much for the gold, kind stranger. Story 7. The thing with introverts is it's difficult to keep a conversation going until, that is, you find this one subject they are most passionate about. It's not long ago I shared how I met my husband. He's the intro. He kept coming into the bar I worked, and I kept asking him questions, trying to get a conversation going. But L kept hitting a wall. It didn't stop me from trying, though. It confuses me to think back on because I was also very annoyed with him. But anyway, after asking about so many things, I finally on day 4, asked him about books, and the boy never shut his mouth thereafter. So to all introverts out there, asking questions is difficult, but you're all passionate about whatever it is. Lead the conversation towards that one subject that you feel confident talking about. Then all the rest will come more easily. I can't believe my husband didn't ask. So do you read any books? Who's your favorite author? When he's so passionate about them. For 4 days all we did was me, question. Him, Answer me. Me. Question. Story 8. On the Greyhound. During my time in the Army, I was stationed at Fort Eustis, Virginia. On my way home, Denver, Colorado at the time, for Christmas, I saw her sitting across from and slightly behind me. Honestly, I didn't pay much attention to her at first, but my buddy seated next to her did. After getting down repeatedly for a day and a half, he finally got off the bus. Shortly thereafter, she came over and sat next to me and we started talking. After that, we got split up, put on different buses, and I kicked myself for not getting her number. Then, when the bus stopped in St. Louis, there she was standing right there in the entrance, almost like she was waiting for me. If my bus had arrived 15 minutes later, I'd have never seen her again. Then I found out the bus to Denver was delayed due to snow and wasn't going anywhere for at least 2 days. She hurried over to the ticket counter and had my ticket changed to Des Moines, Iowa, where she was going, so I wouldn't be trapped in St. Louis for 2 days. We spent the next 4 days getting to know each other. Then I continued home. We had a long-distance relationship for about 6 months until I came home permanently, by which time she had moved to Denver and rented an apartment. We got married 3 years later and have been together 10 years total. Story 9. Always thought she was really pretty. Had noticed her when she first moved in. Dorm living. She was a year under me. She had a boyfriend all through her freshman year, and I'm not one to try and mess with that. After that year, my sophomore year, I moved out and went to live in an apartment with some friends. Me and my best friend at the school at the time were pretty introverted, and we were worried we wouldn't meet people anymore since we both moved out to separate apartments. And one of the main perks of dorm living was being around hundreds of other people your age within 100 feet at all times. So we made a pact to go and visit our old dorm at least once a week to try and meet new people and stay in contact with the underclass men we had met thus far. She still lived in a dorm, but had moved across the street to a different dorm that was all girls. One time, early August, so beginning of the school year, we went to visit our old dorm around 7 p.m. We found some friends from last year there, including her. I didn't know her up until that point, just that she was extremely pretty and her name. Anyways, we decided to go to another girl's apartment to play board games. As a genius ploy, me and my friend had purchased a board game to give us something to do to meet people. We're really cool, in case you couldn't tell. So we go to this house and meet some people we'd never met. Our board game requires pairs of people, so we pair up. And I get paired with the girl who lives in the apartment. My friend gets paired up with the pretty girl. It was fine though, because while I thought she was pretty, I didn't know if she was single. The night went on and it was really fun. We played for about 4 hours and really got some good conversation in with these people we either barely knew or didn't know at all. Afterwards, when my friend got me home, I made sure to add everyone I had met on Facebook, because for some reason that felt important for me. I don't know. Next week we go again during the day and I see her there again. Originally, there were probably 6 of us in the dorm lobby. One by one, everyone left until it was just her and me. We got to talking and she seemed really cool. I liked her, but she said she had to go to study or something after a while, and I assumed I freaked her out or whatever. So, that wasn't the best. Next week, she's there again. We talk for a bit in a group of people before the group collectively decides to go play volleyball at the local rec center across the street. She agrees to come. Before we leave, my friend from before tells me she's flirting with. I didn't believe him and thought he was just pulling my leg. We go to play volleyball and she shows up. We palouse for at least 3 hours. She's there the whole time and seems genuinely terrified to play. It was bizarre. It's like she didn't want to be there, but stuck it out the whole time despite some people leaving halfway through and it being perfectly reasonable for her to leave then. Afterwards, some people left to go eat while others went back to the dorm. I go back to the dorm. She comes with. We talk for a bit, and by a bit I mean hours in a group. I get really hungry, but I'm afraid if I leave to go eat that she won't come with and we'd never be able to talk like this again. My friend goes and gets me McDonald's, delivers it to me, then promptly leaves to talk to other people at a different part of the dorm. I mustered up the courage at 4 a.m. It took me a little while to ask for her number. She gives it to me. I see her the next weekend. She kisses me. I pass away inside. The next week I ask her to be my girlfriend. I plan to ask her to be my wife. I love her. Edit. Sorry for the abrupt ending. I didn't want to go on for so long. Didn't want to bore anyone. We've been dating almost 3 years now. Also, the board game was Loaded Questions. Story 10. I've known this girl for a decade now, which I have had a crush on for the longest time. Just recently, in a drunken state, she confessed she's been in love with me for years, and yet every time the topic has come up about relationships, I've matrix dodged my way out. But not anymore. As of tomorrow, I'm going to try and ask her out. I've never been so scared in all my life. Pray for me. Update 1. I decided to send her a link to the thread for a topic starter then, like an awkward cliché. Continued to ask her out over Messenger. Her reply was for me to wait until she has properly woken up and had cuddles her cat. Now we play the try not to have a panic attack while waiting game. Update you guys again in a few hours. Update 2. It's a complete role reversal. She's now worried about what if it doesn't work out. She wants to talk in person now. Hopefully we can hash it out today. Final update. We're all going to be left in suspense. Due to poor luck, our talk won't be happening until the weekend. I might make a post about this on Reddit somewhere after it's ended with the final verdict, but until then, we wait. Limbo. We finally managed to get a day off work and meet up. The talk mostly consisted of us going round in circles, so to a long story short, she didn't want to say yes because of the fact that ultimately nothing will change between us. She's scared that if the relationship doesn't work out, it will end up ruining our friendship, and I'll just be like another one of her ex. However, she didn't want to say no either, so I still might have a chance. Sorry for the long wait, you guys, but I really didn't want to post something as blue-balling as this. If something ever does happen, I'll make a post on /r/introvert and link back to this thread. Thank you for all the epic amounts of support and the gold, too. I've never felt so determined because of you guys. Story 11. Online dating. Out all the nonsense and filter selectively. I've only sent messages to a handful of women. Only chatted with 3. Only gone on dates with 1. We've been together for 8 years now, married for 3. Edit. Wow, a lot more replies than I anticipated. I should probably add a disclaimer. Results not typical and may or may not be reproducible. Your success rate may vary. Typical message range varies from 1 to 1 million. Typical date range varies from 1 to 1 million. Before entering the online dating world, consult your doctor, therapist, bartender, and lawyer. Side effects may or may not include loneliness, happiness, desperation, good conversation, sad masturbation, bankruptcy, lots of close relationship, and lots of awkward silences. Proceed with caution and at your own risk. Best of luck, and may re-odds be forever in your favor. Story 12. I was living in a duplex with some friends. One day I decided to take one of my roommate's dog for a walk, which I never usually did. Shortly after leaving the house, I was stopped by a girl who asked, "Don't I know you from somewhere?" I had never seen her before, but it was enough to start the small talk. She helped me walk the dog around the block, and we were basically inseparable from that point on. What my introvert self failed to notice at the time, she had been stalking me for weeks, trying to get me to notice her. Walking her own dog past my house, riding her bike next to my car, waiting for me to get home from work when I would unknowingly street park in front of her house where she would be doing yard work. She succeeded by catching me walking that dog, which remember I never ever did. It was fate, I guess. 6 months after meeting her, I moved out of the duplex and 5 houses down the street. LOL. Married 16 years now. Story 13. We met in a science fiction class at college, and we absolutely hated each other. She thought I was an idiot, and I thought she was a know-it-all bad person. We argued. We squabbled. We one-upped. We are both super nerds, so it was a seemingly endless battle of esoteric knowledge about science fiction literature. At some point, we got to arguing about *Atlas shrugged*. I made several trenchant remarks about its lack of literary value, and she aggressively defended it. One thing led to another, and before I knew it, we were watching The Empire Strikes Back and dating. We're engaged now. She still thinks I'm an idiot. I still think she's a bad person. But we don't hate each other anymore. ETA. I proposed next to the Intrepid in NYC by the Star Trek exhibit with an Enterprise ring in a box that had a picture of Picard saying, "Engage." Story 14. Volunteered in Thailand to work with elephants. I was one of only 2 guys with 18 girls. Volunteering is very often dominated by compassionate, smart women, especially if it involves animals. My girlfriend is an absolutely beautiful, amazing girl that is now a vet student. We are completely in love. I recommend volunteering to anyone, and especially to people who are depressed and lonely. It is rewarding, and if you're not a cow person, you will meet amazing people and have amazing experiences. Edit. I know this is a late edit, but I wrote this when I was tired, and now I'm remembering how we met. I said we're in love, and I just get warm every time I think about her. The night it became obvious we liked each other, she broke my finger. Well, that's what I tell everyone. By the truth is, I was carrying her up some stairs to a movie theater and tripped. She landed on my hand on the corner of a stair and basically shattered my knuckle. I ignored it. We skipped out on the movie with the group and had drinks on the roof. It was one of the best nights of my life. I never told the instructor I broke my pinky because I didn't want to get sent away and miss the rest of the trip with her, so now I can't bend it all the way. It's permanently disfigured. I love it because it's such a good story and reminder of how much fun we always have. Well, I tried to upload pictures of my broken finger and the two of us, but it ain't working. Oh well. Story 15. I met my fiancée on the first day of college completely by accident. I programmed my schedule into my phone, but hadn't accounted for daylight savings time. Therefore, I show up to my first class an hour earlier unknown to me. I had decided that I was going to make a real effort to put myself out there and be social, so I sit near the front of the lecture hall. I'd shown up with plenty of time before class, which was an hour earlier than my real class. Me and these 4 other people start talking about where we're from and stuff like that. They're all freshmen too, and I'm really stoked because it's before the first class even, and I found a group of friends to hang out with. One of these people is this gorgeous girl in the row ahead of me, and I fall in love with her the first time she turns around and asks me my name. Right before class, we decide to all get lunch at one of the dining halls later at a specified time. About 15 minutes into the class, it becomes really obvious that I'm not in the last class. I go to my schedule and online and realize that my entire schedule in my phone is an hour early. I'm too embarrassed to stand up and leave at this point, so I just stay. I almost didn't go to lunch when and where we agreed upon because I thought it would be embarrassing, but I thought there was a chance that gorgeous girl would be there. As luck would have it, I run into her in the lobby of the dining hall and we eat lunch and talk for 3 hours. We never saw any of the 3 people from the class, and I don't think I've spoken to them since. I add her on Facebook rather than ask her for her number because I'm a coward and we get lunch together several more times the first 2 weeks of class. Then she asks me if I'll go with her to this party that her roommate wants to go to. We both hate it. I kiss her after walking her back to her dorm and we've been together ever since. Story 16. I'm definitely a hardcore introvert, at least if you believe Myers-Briggs tests. But I'm not shy, don't have anxiety or anything like that. Still, I always had confidence issues and could never manage a cold open with a girl. Even with friends of friends that I liked, I found creative ways to fudge things up and make them horrifically awkward. Met my wife on eHarmony. Dated for 4 years, married for almost 5 now. Just had our first kid. After talking online, we met at a bar and just hit it off. Funny thing is, she's way different than me. Much more extroverted. I've rubbed off on her a little, and she's rubbed off on me a little. For me, my problem was always that I couldn't tell if a girl was interested, and I could never tell when I was crossing the line from flirting to being creepy. And I was never looking for anything casual. I wanted a relationship. By meeting a girl online, I knew she was interested and looking for the same thing as me. So I didn't get all in my own head about it, and I was free to just be myself. Did fine after that. Story 17. How I met my GF isn't all that interesting, but how I worked on myself in order to improve my chances as an introvert and formerly very shy person is something I think more people reading this thread will find useful. Realizing that introvert doesn't equal bad social skills, only that you charge your batteries when you're alone. Use your strengths. Introverts are often better listeners and at observing others. By using statements about your observations, this needs some social calibration, but practice makes perfect. The conversations will flow better. Many people have told me that I'm very easy to get to know. The secret is that I'm just really good at getting other people talking about themselves. Except that as an introvert, long days being social is often tiresome. Either you can come later to the pre-party or go home sooner. Also, I've found that drinking water and eating some food often energize you more than alcohol if you have been drinking for a few hours. It's better to be energetic and fun for 4 hours instead of just slowly turning into a socially saturated monster after too many hours of socialization. Find your sweet spot and stick with it. Everyone is shy in some forms of interactions, but some generally more than others. You will never overcome your shyness if you don't step out of your comfort zone. You need to get exposed to those types of interactions you fester. Deliberately focus on the process, that is, taking initiative action, instead of the results, i.e., the outcome response. Most often, you will find out that you had little to fear, and often you will don't care about the outcome because you're so proud of yourself for pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. The reality is that most people don't care that much if you say something stupid, especially if you show that you don't take yourself too serious. Embrace your weirdness. It shows confidence. People think you're more of a weirdo if you're very silent rather than someone who is true to themselves. You will attract the people that fit your personality if you act like your true self. Yes, being yourself is a great tip. You just have to act like yourself. Not like the fake, boring persona most people act like when they're not yet comfortable with the one they're talking to.